So you join me today out here in Western Canada in what's been a mild winter, but I'm here with a really special watch, and that is the Casio Oceanus. Now the Oceanus is Casio's premium line, but outside of watch enthusiasts, it's not very well known and it's a bit of a hidden secret. It's certainly very well hyped inside watch circles, however, so I've been really keen to get my hands on one, and I finally picked up this Oceanus OCW-T200. Anyway, the question is it going to be any good, and does it live up to the hype? Let's have a look. There's a lot to get through with this one today, so we'll rattle through some specifications and then we'll get stuck in to what I think are the key points with this particular watch. So the bezel diameter here is 40mm, but the case extends slightly just underneath that, so 41.5 is my measured diameter. It's 10.9mm thick, 49.5mm lug to lug, but hold on there, because more important than that is it's 53mm from male end link to male end link. These do angle down slightly, but just bear in mind when you'll see it on my wrist, which is 17.5cm, it fits well, but I think much smaller wrists are going to struggle. Case and bracelet are stainless steel, but something unusual with this is that the watch, unsized, weighs only 133 grams. So I don't know what Casio does with their steel or what the grade is, but it's halfway between what I would normally expect stainless steel to feel like and titanium. It does feel super light, and even sized down for my wrist, I'm down to around 120 grams with this. Water resistance is 100 meters. It has a solar hybrid movement. I'll go into details later. What you need to know for now, that's a quartz movement with multiband 6 and capability for syncing time and date with your mobile phone. And it has AR coated sapphire. I don't know if it's dual AR or just a very strong single AR. Visually, the party piece of the watch, and the thing that's going to sell it for you if you're looking to buy one, is the dial, the hands, the crystal, and the way everything reacts under light and in different lighting situations. The more common colorway that you'll see out and about on YouTube is the black colorway, but last year Casio launched this sort of silvery sunburst dial, and I think it highlights a little bit more the accents and the things that make this watch so great. So the indices on this one are floating, and that creates a lot of depth in the dial, and it's something that I've had quite a few people actually comment on when I've been wearing this out and about, non-watch people that couldn't put their finger on what it was, but something about the dial looked really cool. On this watch you'll notice the indices, the hands, the Casio logo, the rectangle around the date window, and the edge of the dial all have this fantastic shimmering blue color, and when the watch catches the light it really does glimmer in this lovely deep blue, and I hope it comes across on camera, because in person it's really quite spectacular, and it's something that I wouldn't expect at this price point. Aside from this gorgeous glimmer, the dial itself is not completely flat. So sitting underneath those floating indices is a dial that has kind of radial grooves right around it. I guess it looks a little bit like a vinyl record, if you know what I mean. A nice point to note is that the seconds hand hits the markers every single time as we're looking face down at the dial. There is a small amount of text just around the bottom of the dial there. It's not immediately visible, but you will notice it when you get up close with this watch. The text here is mainly used for connecting it to the app or checking if the watch is synced with the radio signals around the world. Zooming out a little bit and looking at the sides of the case, you've got a mixture of brushing and polishing. The brushing is really nicely done, it's very smooth, and any of the angles cut into the case are really well defined. Whatever Casio is using for their machining, it really does create a very, very defined finish. Definitely the best that I've seen at this price point. It's also worth noting that having the chamfers on both the bezel and the case keeps it interesting when you're looking at it from different angles. On the right hand side of the watch, you'll see there is what looks like a conventional crown with the Oceanus logo in, very nicely finished, but let me be honest with you, since I bought this watch, I haven't touched the crown once. And that's because I set the watch up using the mobile phone app. So essentially the rectangular button at the bottom there, if you hold that down, it will jump and rotate twice and point to the C for connectivity. And then I'm able to use the app on my phone, and it automatically syncs the time, the date, double checks everything is accurate to the second. And I know some people will prefer to set the watch through the crown, which you can do. The instructions are all there in the Casio manual that comes with this watch in Japanese and in English, so you'll be okay. But I honestly prefer to use the mobile phone app because by now everybody has a phone. This is not particularly intrusive, it's not sending notifications, it's just used for syncing the time. And also, that date is essentially an automatic calendar. I don't think I can call it a perpetual calendar because this is a quartz watch, right? But the point is, 28 days in February, no problem. 1st of March is going to tick over. This watch knows what month it is, even though it's only displaying the date. Casio advertised with this movement a plus or minus 15 seconds per month accuracy, and that's if you're not using multi-band 6 or syncing with the phone. If you don't want to use either, then like I said, you can manually set everything through the crown, and there's detailed instructions for that. For me, this watch uses modern technology in a way to assist us as the watch enthusiast in not having to do the things that we don't necessarily want to do, like picking up a dead watch, setting the date, setting the time, keep changing the date wheel every time we go for a month that doesn't have 31 days, and also fantastic accuracy. Definitely, as an enthusiast, this is the best kind of integration of technology that I've seen. I nearly forgot. This is a solar movement, so no worrying about batteries. It will charge itself. And in the same way that Citizen managed it, Casio managed to do solar without making it obvious. Just a quick one, you've probably realized by now that this Oceanus by Casio is quite a cool watch, but it's not the only cool watch on the channel. So if you'd like to see more, please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification icon as well. It really helps and I appreciate it so much. Anyway, back to the video. As for the bracelet of the watch, it's well finished, the brushing is nice, it's smooth, there's some polished chamfered edges at the bottom of each of the links. It helps prevent it from being too dull, but you don't have any large polished surfaces that are going to get scratched up really quickly. So it should stay looking good for a long time. End-link fit is also pretty nice on this, and at the bottom you've got a clasp with 2 holes of micro adjust, but there is also half links on the bracelet as well. For me, I have been able to get a comfortable fit with this one. As for the case back, let's come back to that. So I promised you a lume shot, and here it is. Now the lume doesn't initially look impressive, it's not vividly bright, and you might think I'd be disappointed by it. But the truth is this, that even after a long period of time, multiple hours, the lume doesn't fade very much on this watch. And I'm actually really quite impressed with it. I was initially underwhelmed, and then I woke up the next morning to check how the lume is and see if it's still visible, and to my surprise, it was still really strong. So although it's not a flashlight in a cave, for the amount of surface area, this lume does a really good job. Now onto the pros and cons. The best thing, undoubtedly, about this watch is the dial, crystal, hands and indices, which I mentioned right at the start. The depth in the dial with the floating indices, the polished edges with that cool blue glimmer, and that invisible AR sapphire. It's just an awesome piece of sapphire at this price. It rivals my Breitlings, which are far more expensive. So massive kudos to Casio. Secondly, it's really lightweight, which means it's really comfortable. I don't have any issues wearing this watch over a long day, long period of time, and I don't have any discomfort whatsoever. The next point is the seconds hand. It hits the markers every single time. There's no wobble, there's no backlash, it's not affected by gravity. This is how seconds hands should always be on quartz. The next point is just the ease of syncing with the app. I was a bit skeptical when I got the watch, but I thought I'll give the app a go as it seemed like the quickest option and I have zero regrets. It's honestly really good with the app, but it's nice knowing that I don't ever have to use it. And finally, value for money. I paid 478 Canadian dollars for this watch. That's about 355 US dollars, depending on the exchange rate going up and down. For all of this, for that money, honestly, I think it's hard to beat. That said, I'm going to be honest with you, it's not all fantastic with this. Okay, first up, the pressed outer clasp is horrible. What is it doing on this watch? I wouldn't expect this clasp on a $100 AliExpress watch. You can see the cheap double pressed skin. There's a gap in between them, it's ugly, and those two highly polished push buttons are doing it no favours either. I really hate the outer clasp, and it's a shame because the milled inner is really nice. Next up is the jangly bracelet. Now this isn't as bad as it sounds because on wrist it is very comfortable because of the lightweight and the good quality finishing, but taking it on and off, my goodness me, it sounds like something out of a cereal box from the 1980s. Next up is the polishing quality. I've had this under macro and had this under loop, and the polishing is just slightly dirty. I don't know. I'll put some footage in and just show you what I mean. It looks good from a distance, but when you get up close, it's not a mirror finish, it's a slightly dirty mirror finish. And I'll point this out to you, I filmed this footage before I'd even sized the watch or put it on. I do it straight away because it's easier without any scratches and fingerprints to get something nice looking for YouTube. It's just been dry wiped with a polishing cloth, but not any compound, so there's no reason why it shouldn't look fantastic, but it doesn't. Next up is the charging time for the solar cell. I have a large collection of watches, and I don't get a chance to charge this one under strong UV every single day. So if you're going to have this one in a cupboard and out of the sun and away from light for long periods of time, then just bear that in mind, it doesn't charge quickly. Next up is the case back, and it's a pressed case back, it feels cheap, and it's just the most boring spec sheet you can imagine. It feels out of place with the rest of the watch. This is a JDM only watch. Now that does add a cool factor, but it does also mean that it is more difficult to buy, so do your research, look at your prices, and be aware of your customs duties, because some of you are going to have to pay a lot more than others, depending on where you live. Final point, and it's something that I always notice, why is the seconds hand not able to reach to the markers on that chapter ring? It just needs to be a tiny bit longer, and I wouldn't have a complaint. Right, that's enough of that. On with the conclusion.
Yes or no, this is your last chance, no beating around the bush.
So I really like this watch. It is a fantastic, go anywhere, do anything watch, set and forget. I mean, name any of these cliches and it fits the bill perfectly. The finishing is fantastic, although the polishing, watch out for it when you're under macro. All in all, it's fantastic value, and I've got no hesitation in recommending it to somebody, especially as it is something unique, considering it's only sold in Japan, so you won't see many of them out in the wild. But despite the spectacular value for money and all of the features this watch has to offer, I'm probably not going to keep it. And it's nothing against this Oceanus, it's just another Casio has stolen my heart. Anyway, that's all I have to say on this Oceanus. Let me know in the comments what you think about this particular watch, what you think about the Casio Oceanus range in particular, and if you have any other alternatives that you think are worthy of a look. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.